Men over 60, there is something important we need to talk about today. Something most men never imagined could be connected to the very foods they believe are healthy. So many of you have written to me saying, Barbara, my energy isn't what it used to be. My mornings aren't as strong and I don't understand why things have changed. And far too often society responds with a simple phrase, that's just aging. But I do not accept that answer and neither should you. What many men don't realize is that the foods they snack on every single day can quietly sabotage circulation, disrupt hormones, inflame the prostate, and weaken erections over time. Not because these foods are bad, but because the male body changes after 50, and what was harmless at 30 can become harmful at 60. And one of the biggest hidden culprits, nuts. Yes, the very food that is often marketed as heart healthy, high protein, or packed with good fats. In this lesson, I'm going to show you the 5 nuts that can quietly reduce blood flow, the way they disrupt testosterone and nitric oxide, why these changes affect erections and prostate health, and most importantly, the 3 nuts you should eat instead to support strength, stamina, and confidence. My goal today is not to frighten you. My goal is to give you clarity, because once you understand how these foods behave inside the body, you gain the power to change your health naturally, safely, and effectively. And as we move forward, I want you to keep this in mind. Erections are not simply a function of youth. They are a reflection of circulation, hormonal balance, and inflammation, all of which can be improved even in your 60s, 70s, and beyond. So let us begin by looking at the first nut in our list, a nut most people believe is harmless, even healthy. Yet for many men over 60, it is one of the most misleading foods you can put in your body. Let us begin with cashews, because they are one of the most misunderstood nuts when it comes to men's health, especially after 60. On the surface, cashews seem harmless. They're soft, creamy, easy to chew, and often marketed as a heart-healthy snack. But what I want you to understand is this. Cashews behave very differently inside a senior man's body than they do in a younger man's body. Here's why. Cashews contain a high amount of natural starch and sugar compared to most other nuts. This means that when you eat even a small handful, your body experiences a noticeable rise in blood glucose. And when blood glucose rises, insulin must rise as well. Now, this is the crucial part. When insulin rises, testosterone falls. Those two hormones oppose each other. One goes up, the other goes down. And this matters deeply for men over 60 because testosterone levels are already naturally declining with age. Anything that pushes them even lower can create a profound ripple effect: lower libido, slower circulation, weaker erections, lower energy and strength, more belly fat accumulation. But it doesn't stop there. Cashews are also high in oxalates, compounds that can irritate the urinary tract and may contribute to kidney stones. And any irritation in the lower abdomen, whether in the kidneys, prostate, or bladder, can indirectly affect sexual function through inflammation. Cashews also contain a compound called anacardic acid, which must be heat-treated to be safe. Even trace amounts can be mildly inflammatory for some people, especially older adults with slower digestion and weaker detoxification. So while cashews are not inherently bad, they create a metabolic environment that works against the very things men over 60 need most: stable testosterone, steady blood sugar, calm, low inflammation tissues, smooth blood flow. And without those, erections become less reliable and circulation becomes sluggish. That is why, if you're snacking on cashews daily, or even just a few times a week, they may be quietly contributing to the very issues you're trying to fix. But cashews are only the beginning. The next nut on our list is even more deceptive because it is one of the most common nuts eaten worldwide, yet it carries a hidden hormonal effect that many men never suspect. Now let us turn to peanuts, a nut that is not truly a nut at all. It is a legume. And this difference matters greatly, especially for men over 60. Peanuts are one of the most commonly eaten snacks in the world. They're inexpensive, widely available, and often roasted, salted, or coated in oils that make them even more tempting. But beneath the surface, they carry 3 hidden challenges that can quietly weaken male vitality over time. Peanuts contain natural estrogen-like compounds. This surprises many people. Peanuts contain phytoestrogens, plant compounds that mimic estrogen in the body. For women, this can sometimes be beneficial. But for men, particularly older men whose testosterone is already naturally declining, even mild estrogenic foods can disrupt the hormonal balance. And that imbalance shows up in familiar ways. Low energy, softening muscle, belly fat increase, reduced libido, weaker, less reliable erections. Testosterone is not just a sex hormone, it determines strength, drive, mental clarity, and vitality. Anything that nudges the male body toward estrogen dominance works against that. Peanuts are highly contaminated with aflatoxins. Because peanuts grow underground and retain moisture, they are prone to contamination with aflatoxins, a toxin produced by certain molds. Even small amounts can increase inflammation in the body, irritate the liver, affect blood flow, raise oxidative stress. The liver plays a major role in hormone processing. When it is congested or inflamed, testosterone is broken down faster, leading to even lower levels. Peanut oils clog blood vessels over time. Most peanuts are roasted in cheap industrial oils, especially soybean oil, cottonseed oil, rapeseed oil, hydrogenated oils. These oils are inflammatory and contribute to plaque buildup in the arteries, including the delicate arteries that supply blood to the male reproductive organs. Erections depend on strong, fast, healthy blood flow. If the vessels are inflamed or narrowed, performance becomes inconsistent. Why peanuts are especially harmful after age 60? As the male body ages, it becomes more sensitive to inflammation, more reactive to hormonal shifts, and slower to recover from nutritional stresses. Peanuts create all 3: estrogen-like effects, liver load from aflatoxins, inflammatory oils that slow circulation. This is why many men who snack on peanuts daily notice less morning firmness, slower arousal, weaker pelvic circulation, and general loss of vitality. But the good news is this: once peanuts are removed from the diet, men often feel noticeable improvements within weeks. Circulation begins to open, hormones begin to stabilize, and the body has a chance to come back into balance. Now that we've covered cashews and peanuts, 2 nuts that disrupt metabolic and hormonal stability, let's move into the next category. A nut that seems premium, expensive, and healthy, yet carries a surprisingly heavy metabolic load. Macadamia nuts are often viewed as a luxury health food. They're buttery, delicious, and praised for being high in monounsaturated fats, the same type found in olive oil. At first glance, it seems they would be perfectly harmless, even beneficial. But here is where we must look deeper, because for men over 60, the way macadamias behave inside the body can quietly interfere with the very things you are trying to improve, especially circulation and hormonal balance. Macadamias are extremely high in fat, even higher than most nuts. Now, healthy fats are essential. I encourage them in many contexts. But macadamias contain one of the highest fat concentrations of any nut, and this presents a very specific challenge for older men. As we age, the gallbladder and liver naturally produce less bile, making high-fat foods harder to digest. When fats sit too long in the digestive tract, they slow down metabolism, increase inflammation, create heaviness in the circulation, burden the liver, and reduce the body's efficiency at processing hormones. For men who already struggle with slow digestion or poor circulation, macadamias often make those issues more pronounced. 2. Their dense fat profile can increase LDL in sensitive individuals. Macadamias are marketed as heart healthy, but the truth is more nuanced. Some men, particularly those with insulin resistance, low thyroid function, or sluggish liver metabolism are more likely to experience rises in LDL cholesterol after regular intake of macadamias. And why does this matter? Because penile arteries are only 1–2 millimeters wide. They are the first to be affected when cholesterol begins to accumulate. Even slight thickening of the blood or stiffening of vessels can significantly reduce firmness, endurance, and the ability to maintain blood flow. This is why erectile issues often appear years before heart problems. They are an early sign of circulation decline. 3. Macadamias are low in key minerals needed for male vitality. Unlike walnuts or pistachios, macadamias contain very little zinc, very little magnesium, and no meaningful amount of arginine, the amino acid that supports nitric oxide production. In other words, they are high in calories but low in the nutrients that men actually need for sexual health. This combination, dense fats, low nutrients, and slow digestion, makes macadamias one of the worst nuts for older men who are trying to improve erections, protect the heart, lose belly fat, reduce prostate load, or restore energy. Why macadamias become more harmful with age? For younger men with fast metabolism, macadamias often cause no noticeable issue. But for men over 60, the digestive system is slower, the circulation is more delicate, and the hormonal system more sensitive. Macadamias simply ask too much of the body at this stage of life. They slow blood flow, add metabolic burden, fail to provide the minerals needed for vitality, and may push cholesterol in the wrong direction. This doesn't mean they are poisonous. It simply means they are not the right nut for men seeking improved circulation and performance. Now, macadamias may weaken circulation, but the next nut on our list affects something even more important: your hormonal system. Brazil nuts are often spoken of as a superfood, and in very small amounts they can indeed be helpful. But for many men over 60, they quietly become a source of imbalance. This is because Brazil nuts contain extraordinarily high levels of selenium, the highest concentration found in any natural food. While selenium is essential for thyroid function, immunity, and general vitality, the body requires it in very small doses. Once that threshold is exceeded, selenium begins to act as a toxin rather than a nutrient. A single Brazil nut can contain more selenium than an adult male needs in an entire day. 2 or 3 nuts may already exceed ideal daily intake, and when selenium accumulates beyond what the body can manage, the effects often resemble the very problems men attribute to aging: fatigue, irritability, low libido, hair thinning, brittle nails, and reductions in sexual performance. Many men blame hormones or stress, unaware that the source of their discomfort may be the handful of nuts they have added to their routine in hopes of improving health. Excess selenium can also place strain on the liver, and the liver plays a central role in the processing of hormones. When the liver becomes burdened, testosterone tends to decline more rapidly while inflammation in the body increases. This combination affects circulation as well. The fine arteries that support male sexual function are especially vulnerable, and even small disturbances in blood vessel health can reduce strength and firmness. Brazil nuts are also extremely high in fat. For younger men with stronger digestion, this may not create an immediate problem, but for men over 60, especially those with sluggish bile production or slower metabolism, these dense fats can be difficult to process. They may contribute to heaviness, digestive discomfort, and elevations in LDL cholesterol. When both selenium overload and dense fats come together, the result is a food that offers too much of a good thing, and not in a form the aging male body can easily manage. None of this means Brazil nuts must be avoided entirely. 1 nut, perhaps 2, once or twice a week is usually more than enough to supply the benefits without overwhelming the system. But daily consumption, or casual handfuls, can tip the balance in the wrong direction. And this brings us naturally to the next issue, a problem that is not only about the nut itself, but what is added to it. Many men choose flavored mixed nuts as a convenient snack. unaware that the coatings and oils used on these blends can interfere even further with circulation and vitality. In the next section, we'll look closely at how flavored mixed nuts become silent contributors to erectile difficulties and why they should be approached with caution. Flavored mixed nuts, the erection killers in disguise. While single nuts like Brazil nuts or cashews pose their own problems, flavored mixed nuts introduce an entirely different challenge, one that many men never suspect. On the surface, they appear harmless, a convenient snack, lightly seasoned, easily poured into a bowl. But when we look more closely, we find that it is not the nuts themselves causing the trouble, but what has been added to them. Most flavored nut mixes are coated in ingredients that place a burden on circulation, inflammation, and hormonal balance. Artificial flavorings, preservatives, excess salt, and low-quality oils create a combination that the male body, especially after the age of 60, struggles to handle efficiently. And these additives can quietly work against a man's efforts to restore his vitality. And then there are the artificial flavorings. Barbecue, honey roasted, chili lime, maple glazed. These powders often contain preservatives, sugars, artificial colors, and chemical stabilizers. Many of these compounds interfere with insulin balance, and insulin has a direct influence on testosterone. When insulin rises too often, testosterone falls, leaving men feeling more fatigued, softer around the waist, and less responsive sexually. This combination, refined oils, excess salt, and artificial coatings, creates a food that no longer behaves like a natural nut. Instead, it becomes a processed snack that works against the very goal of restoring male strength and performance. And it is important to understand that for men over 60, the margin of tolerance grows smaller. The body becomes more sensitive, the liver works harder, and the blood vessels respond more quickly to inflammation. What a younger man might tolerate without issue becomes a barrier for an older man seeking to restore firmness, stamina, and confidence. Fortunately, not all nuts are problematic. When we return to nuts in their natural state, unflavored, unsalted, unroasted, they offer minerals, healthy fats, and amino acids that support circulation, hormones, and overall vitality. In the next section, we'll look at the nuts that truly help men over 60 feel stronger, more energized, and more confident, and why they deserve a place in a man's weekly routine. The good nuts. What to eat instead. After looking closely at the nuts that quietly work against male vitality, it's important to balance the picture. Not all nuts are harmful. In fact, when we return to nuts in their natural unflavored state, certain ones can support the very systems older men are trying to strengthen: circulation, hormone balance, nerve function, and overall metabolic health. The body responds remarkably well when we provide it with the nutrients it recognizes and needs. Walnuts are one of the most valuable choices. They contain a rare combination of plant-based omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, and amino acids that support nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide is the molecule that relaxes blood vessels and allows them to open fully. When these vessels open, blood flows freely and smoothly, not only to the heart and brain, but also to the reproductive organs. Men who include walnuts regularly often feel improvements in mental clarity, warmth in the extremities, and more reliable circulation overall. Walnuts also contain polyphenols that help protect blood vessels from oxidative stress, which becomes more important with age. Almonds offer a different kind of support. They are rich in vitamin E, a nutrient that protects the delicate lining of blood vessels and supports nerve sensitivity. Many men overlook the role of nerves in sexual response, focusing only on hormones or circulation. But nerve health matters deeply. Vitamin E nourishes these nerves and supports smooth communication between the brain and the reproductive system. Almonds are also one of the best natural sources of magnesium, a mineral needed for muscle relaxation, steady blood flow, and proper testosterone function. For men who feel tense, easily fatigued, or prone to poor sleep, almonds can be an excellent addition. Pistachios are another nut worth considering, especially for men over 60. They contain arginine, an amino acid that acts as a precursor to nitric oxide. When arginine is available, the body can generate more nitric oxide naturally, supporting both circulation and erectile strength. Pistachios are also rich in antioxidants such as lutein and zeaxanthin, which protect the arteries from inflammation. Their gentle fat profile makes them easier to digest than many other nuts, which benefits older men who may struggle with heavy or oily foods. Together, these nuts form a small but powerful group that complements a man's natural physiology rather than resisting it. They nourish the blood vessels, protect the nerves, and provide minerals that support hormonal balance. Of course, moderation is key. A small handful a few times a week is enough. Overeating even healthy nuts can slow digestion, particularly in later years. So if you are a man over 60 or you love someone who is, consider taking this simple but meaningful step. Open your cupboard, look at the nuts you rely on, and choose those that support your health, not those that quietly undermine it. And before we close, let me encourage you to stay connected. If you found this information helpful, please subscribe and join us for more natural, science-backed guides for men's health. Each week, we explore tools that help you strengthen your circulation, balance your hormones, support your prostate, and regain the confidence that should never be lost to age. Your body is capable of more than you've been told, and together we will help you reclaim it, one gentle step at a time.